What's up, guys? Welcome back for a new episode. If you're listening in on Monday, happy Monday. Let's get it started. Let's get it going. First things first, if anybody's watching on YouTube, you might notice something a little bit different. I invested in a pop mic or a pop filter, and it's what the big boys do, I guess, as far as the mic situation and everything, if you can't afford like a super duper like expensive one. So hopefully this audio is coming in nice and clear. Gotta say, it's a little weird getting used to it. My OCD is off the charts with this thing because I can't get it just right how I want it, but we'll make do. Yeah, because I see it on the screen as I'm filming, and it's like tilted just to one side. And I'm sorry if you're listening in and you didn't need this like uneasiness in your life, but if I have to suffer, so do you. So enjoy the image. Let's talk about before. Yeah, I guess we'll go topics first. Okay, just so you know what you're getting into. First topic is going to be why the best fitness coaches usually don't have six packs. Number two is weight loss clinics and why they are gigantic scams. And three is net carbs and why they are bullshit. Okay, always saving the best for last. Let's start with the intro first, though. I'm not going to dive right in. I got to keep you wanting something. So first, I'm going to talk about, I don't know if I mentioned it in the podcasts prior, but I started a new routine when I'm not training people in person, because when I train my in-person clients, one of them is at 4:45 in the morning. I'm like an hour away, so I'm usually up at like 3:30 in the morning to go train them. And then I'm like bang, 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 just a bunch of people in a row until about like noon to 1. And that pretty much gets all my walking in, because we always start with a walk to really loosen up, except for lately it's been pretty cold, so not as much as I'd like to, but still a good amount of walking. But that's slowly transitioning now where I'm only doing that 2 times a week, usually, maybe 3. So in the morning, I'm like, I should start at night, because at night I'm realizing I don't have as many steps, and steps are a good thing to keep at a high level if you want to elevate your metabolism and do it in a way that doesn't stress your body like crazy, which is why I love steps so much. And I'm usually stuck around, like I can get 5K no problem, even on a bad day, but I want to get 7 to 10K ideally, because then I don't have to eat next to nothing to lose weight, because that's my journey I'm on right now. If you guys listen to the last one, I'm currently in the process of trying to lose weight. And one of the big correlations there is step count and rate of fat loss, for me at least. Very, very clear. When I don't walk, I don't drop any weight. And it sucks, but it is the way it is. It does make a case for calories in, calories out. Anyway, I started doing this walk to a convenience store. It's called Speedy Mart. That's right over here in Lakewood, New Jersey. And good guys, bare basics, like love everything that they got there. And they have my favorite flavors of Bang energy drink, because I basically live off that stuff and it's coursing through my veins every day. So it's about a quarter mile there. So I go there, grab my drink, and come back, which gets me about, 2,000 steps is supposed to be a mile, but my watch is reading 2,000 steps by the time I walk back into the door. I guess all my preparation to actually go there is worth like a quarter of a mile or a half a mile, but yeah. So I usually go there. But today I decided, I had a energy drink in the fridge, and I'm like, all right, well, CVS is right next door. I'll just go in there and get some stuff, because my girlfriend's good friend, her wedding is today. So I went there to get some last minute stuff, because we're never 100% ready for this crap. There's always one thing we're forgetting. For me, it happened to be hair gel. So I went over there to go grab it. And if you've ever seen me in a store, I probably pace for a good 10, 15 minutes before I actually know where the hell I'm going, where the hell the stuff is that I'm looking for. And just to paint the picture here, it was cold. It was probably the coldest it's been when I actually went out on a walk. And I had my really baggy sweats that were big enough to fit shorts underneath and you wouldn't even know. So pretty baggy. I also had my shirt on, well, what are they called? Like an quarter zip and a really baggy sweatshirt, because everybody knows when you buy a sweatshirt, you don't want it to be a form-fitting one. You want that baggy one that you could kind of just sink into, especially for the really cold days. And I had my hat on, I had my headphones in, and I had the hood up. And here I am walking through a CVS, headphones blazing. Like I probably couldn't hear you if you were standing right next to me. And I'm pacing, my hands are in the sweatshirt. I look sketchy as hell. I'm not going to lie. Looking back, I'm like, yeah, I had that coming. So one of the employees, this older gentleman, he had to have been in his like mid 50s, and he looks at me and I see him talking to me with my headphones in, and I'm just like, I think he's trying to get my attention. And I pulled the headphones off, and in like that very assuming, judgmental voice, he's like, "Can I help you?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm just looking for hair styling gel." And he's like, "Oh, okay." No guidance whatsoever. Not, "Oh, aisle 3." It's like, "Oh, okay." So that pretty much confirmed my thought that he wasn't really actually trying to help. He thought I was doing something like trying to steal shit without him noticing. Because it also happened to be like just as the store opened, when there's only like 1 or 2 employees. I'm like, this probably would be prime time for robbing a CVS. So looking back, I'm like, God, I gotta not look so sketchy, because at the end of the day, people are going to make their judgments based on preconceived notions. And it's like, you can't fault people for that. It's a human mechanism. Like if they see something that looks and smells and tastes like bad, like trouble, they're going to act on it, or they're going to be suspicious. And I can say that because like back when I worked at Vitamin Shop, they would literally send somebody in to try and pick up on these things and teach you how to pick up on these things. Like when I was at Vitamin Shop, they would tell you like, this is a destination store. Like, you know what you're getting into, you know why you're coming. You're not browsing a vitamin shop. Like maybe the protein section, but you know what you're going for. Like nobody just roams the aisles. But I found out real quick that's not the case, because some people like retirement age just literally have nothing better to do. Anyway, that's what was going through my head as I was walking out. I'm like, I probably would have stopped me too. I probably would have confronted me too. But yeah, that was my experience to start the morning off. Fantastic way to go. And now I feel ready and raring to go for this wedding. It's been a while since I've been to a wedding, and I'm very, very excited. And I do have a new suggestion for everybody out there when it comes to the TV shows. I was taken by surprise, and I was pumped to find out that there is a new installment of the Vikings franchise on Netflix now. For those of you that don't know, Vikings was a show that I think it started on History Channel, and it was really, really good. Sorry, I gotta get a Gatorade sip in. Throat's already getting scratchy. This is going to be a great one. But anyway, Vikings was an incredible, incredible series, and I like it for 2 reasons. One, it scratches that Game of Thrones itch, because it's like not as bad as that. No, I can't say that. There were a couple. Yeah, it's right up there with Game of Thrones as far as the gruesomeness. So if that's your thing, if you like Game of Thrones as much as I do, highly recommend it. And on top of that, they tie in elements of history. So the what's it called? The starting, I won't try and ruin anything, but the beginning of this one, the new installment, like it's like almost like Star Trek Next Generation, but for Vikings. So it's like Vikings Next Generation, like 100 years in front of where Vikings left off. And it starts with a massacre that actually happened. So I'm like, oh, cool. I'm kind of learning something here. And I otherwise wouldn't have known that. And I think it's kind of cool. Like my majority of my bloodline is from Ireland, which is in the vicinity of that Nordic region. I mean, technically, I think you can call it Nordic because there were Vikings in Ireland. So it's kind of cool hearing about that stuff and like watching it. So even though they took artistic liberty to like tell a good story, because it definitely wasn't this action-packed one after the other, bang, bang, bang. It was like, it wasn't like that. So even though they're taking some liberties there, it's awesome to learn a thing or two along the way, and it's kind of cool. So highly recommend checking out Vikings Valhalla on Netflix. I'm only on episode, what was it, 2? I might be halfway through 3rd. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, highly recommend. All right, enough with the intro. That went longer than I wanted it to. Time for topic number 1. The best fitness coaches don't all have six packs. And honestly, the shittier ones usually do. So let me get into that a little bit. When you're looking for a fitness coach, personal trainer, like online coach, anybody, the best ones usually have been through the fire themselves. And what I mean by that is when somebody comes from a place of their own personal journey, they're a much better coach than if they hadn't been. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that have been fit their whole lives that aren't great coaches, because there are. But in my personal experience, the people that can relate the most to their clients, the people that can really connect the best, and that's really what coaching is connecting. It helps so much if that person came from a place that they were on a journey that they experienced themselves. So for example, like myself, I grew up, like by my definition, chunky. I wouldn't say fat looking back, even though I felt that way. I grew up feeling like I was always overweight and I hated it. And like I've spoken about this before, but I would dread going to the pool, taking the shirt off, everything like that. I literally would be in tears, like shaking on my way to the pool just to see, like, because my friends were ruthless at the time. My friends were not nice to me at the time, and they'd give me shit about it. They'd like pinch me and like all that other crap. But anyway, sob story aside, that motivated me to get in shape. And then I swung way too far in the other direction and went the bodybuilding route to the point where I got down to 6% body fat. And then I swung back and I'm like, okay, this is not sustainable. This is not a healthy way to do it. And even though by bodybuilding standards, I did it pretty well because the guidance of 3DMJ, their coaching, and especially Coach Brad Loomis was an incredible coach, really helped me out, do it the right way. But at the end of the day, I believe that bodybuilding is not a way to live life. It just isn't. And it can be done right, but a lot of people take it and run with it, and it builds a lot of mental issues, potentially. Not for everybody, but for some. And I learned quickly that like the body dysmorphia thing happens. Like you get into the most incredible shape of your life, and then when you start being a normal person, all of a sudden you can't live that way and you can't look the way that you want to year round. And you have one of two options. You can either starve yourself, or three options here. You could either starve yourself and keep that physique and live a terrible quality of life, give up a lot of social situations just for the sake of maintaining your body, which is dumb. And the other option is, okay, say you want to keep your results, but you want to live your life. You can, But some people will go the route of taking performance enhancing drugs so that they can booze on the weekends, but they could still maintain a really good physique because of that added testosterone in their body. That is a very possible thing to do. However, when you are pumping your body full of testosterone, Winstrol, Tren, all that other crap, and you're drinking and possibly doing drugs on top of that, it's like you're a ticking time bomb. It's not if, but when you have a problem. And we've seen this in the bodybuilding space a lot lately. People are dying left and right. Like one of the guys, Boston Lloyd, who was one of the biggest proponents of steroids and was very vocal about it. I give him props for being honest. Like, you can't knock the guy for not being honest, but he put it out there that he was taking insane amounts of drugs. And to the point where he took something and it put him into kidney failure at age 27. And now he's dead at age 29. So not a good way to go about it. And so that's not really an option. So the only option really left is to reframe the mindset and to realize what normal is and what normal expectations are and how to live your life to the best of your ability the way that you want. And a lot of people, a lot of coaches that are in that space of like six packs all year round or like always trying to maintain their physique, they don't have a great mentality sometimes going into coaching people. And usually they project their beliefs onto their clients. And I've seen it happen time and time again. Because you always see that like 40, 50-year-old bodybuilder that's a personal trainer in like a commercial gym, and they're training 50, 60-year-old like menopausal women like bodybuilders and telling them to take all these supplements and telling them to like eat nothing but chicken and broccoli, and they can't get anybody results. And when they don't, then they blame the client and say, you're just not doing what you need to be doing. And it happens all over the place. And you don't usually see the opposite end where somebody's super out of shape and like they're trying to like coach people and they just don't get it. But you do see people that would be considered, and I'd say this is probably a majority of fitness coaches that are really good fitness coaches. You see these people that are, like wouldn't be turning any heads on the beach, but they've got a boatload of clients that have had insane success. They have some experience in some realm, like whether it be bodybuilding, weightlifting, CrossFit, endurance stuff. But now they've swung back to that spot where they realized what is livable, what is sustainable. And that's not looking like peak condition year round. And like I said before, you can use somebody's physique as like a litmus test. Like if they have a six-pack year round, again, not everybody, but I would venture to say most people that you see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever that are rocking a six-pack year round, they mentally are not in a place where I think they should be coaching people if they're going to push their beliefs. They're just not. And you can almost bet that situation is going to happen. They'll put you into like what works for them. They're not going to actually like have a long list of options for you. They're not going to be able to work with certain types of people, but they'll take you on anyway. And then when you don't follow their plan, they blame you. So the real thing that I want to get at with all of this is the fact that when you're trying to work with, like find somebody to work with, going by physique is one of the lowest qualifiers out there. And if anything, like I said, it can be a litmus test to let you know, maybe if this person lives this lifestyle and expects me to, this isn't going to work. So look for people with a bunch of clients that have had success with them, and preferably somebody that is a lot like you. So like for me, for example, I've got a decent amount of clients that are women, 40 plus, that have had the typical issues that come with being 40 plus, whether that be being premenopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, or like being on the back end of potentially having kids, like if they're in their 30s, because sometimes I do work with people just under the 40, but like kind of in the ballpark. Now, there are some coaches that could work with anybody under the sun, and you could kind of find their testimonial page and see if they've worked with somebody that does kind of fit the mold of you. So that's another way you could do it. But finding somebody that specializes in like what I've seen being in mentorships and being exposed to other coaches in the space, you can find somebody that's right up your alley. For example, you got myself that does women 40 plus. There's another guy that I know who, Lucas Robinson, he works with guys that are 40, 50 years old that are working out of a garage gym. That's another thing, like equipment wise. If you got somebody that only knows gym equipment and doesn't know how to like program when you're at home, that's another thing to consider. Let me think, who else is there? Also, Greg Pigurano. I'll put his thing in the show notes, but I was just on a call with him the other day, and he works with former athletes. So if that fits your mold and you're a former athlete and want somebody with that mindset, that would make a lot of sense. For me, working with a bunch of 40 plus moms, I could still train you. I'm not going to lie. I could train anybody, but you'd probably rather be with somebody that specializes in working with former athletes, because that's the mentality and the little nuances that you just don't get with somebody that's not in that space. So to cap it all off, to summarize, find somebody that has had success with people like you. Don't go by their physique, because more times than not, that's going to lead you down the wrong path. Those are the only two things that you really need to think about when really prospecting for people. And while we're on the topic, do not go for the lowest price, because that's also a very good litmus test of, one, if the person's a beginner, because if their prices are super duper low, maybe they're just not like that seasoned or that experienced, or they don't value their services that much. And would you really want to work with somebody like that doesn't even value what they do? Maybe it's a side hustle. And that's not a bad thing, but it's like, if you want the best results for your health, get somebody that gives a shit. Get somebody that's all in. And if you get somebody that's giving you an astronomical price, maybe they're not right, because maybe their client book is loaded, absolutely loaded, and you wouldn't be a huge priority. Now, that being said, they might have so much experience that they can give you an amazing service, even though they have a ton of people. That's very possible too. But you want to, for most people, you want to find that middle ground. So somewhere around the lines of, I tell everybody that applies to work with me, it's like about a third of what a personal trainer would cost. So I have clients that spend over $1,000 a month for me in person. So my 3-month option is around that price point, to give you an idea. But again, for every coach out there, prices are always changing. You might get lucky. You might get somebody that just entered the space, online, for example, or somebody who's a personal trainer that just went out on their own for in-person training and they're trying to build up a little bit. If that's the case, strike while the iron's hot. Get them early if you know they're good, because then you can hopefully lock in a lower price for an amazing training experience. But a lot of people don't have that. So find somebody in that middle ground and go that route if you want somebody who's going to get you what you're looking for, because last thing we want to do is waste money, waste time, and waste energy and feel like shit at the end. You want to spend your money and get your money's worth and feel amazing about it. So I'll leave it there. Next is weight loss clinics are scams. And this goes right into don't waste your money, because if you've never been to a weight loss clinic and you're considering it, I'll walk you through, because I've had a handful of clients that have had horrible experiences with this. What happens is you walk in, They give you what comes off like a very medically sound, very in-depth consultation. Make you fill out a lot of paperwork, draw some blood, take your weight, do your blood pressure, all that. It kind of feels like you're at the doctor's office. And they usually have a doctor in-house to make you think that it's legit. Then they run your blood work, they do all this stuff, and then they come back to you and they're like, all right, listen. The way that this works is you are low in this. We're going to give you all these shots or all these supplements, these pills, and you're going to take those to put you in the best position possible. And it looks like your metabolism just is not, it's not up to speed. So we're going to put you at 1,100 calories. And we'll see what happens. That should get you the best results. Well, and then, before I go there, and then what usually happens more times than not is nobody sticks to it, ever. Because I'll tell you right now, you can come to me right here in the podcast studio, it's a kitchen, and I could sit you down and say, all right, we're going to eat 1,100 calories every single day, and you're going to lose weight. You didn't need to spend thousands of dollars for somebody to tell you that. They're literally starving people and making this and creating this facade like it's this medically sound, very in-depth process when it's a load of bullshit. They starve people, and what happens is the people that do stick it out, the ones that are mentally toughest, they get a good result from it, or quote unquote good result from it. They take a picture for them. They use that picture to promote it like it works for everybody. And then that same person that took the picture 6 months later, 1 year later, they're back to right where they were at before they even started. And in most cases, worse. It's like the Biggest Loser effect. Let me look this up. I want to make sure that the percentages are right. Percentage of Biggest Loser who gained the weight back. Okay, so this happens a lot. It does. People go on super restricted diets and then they gain the weight right back and then some. This one is from precisionnutrition.com, which is actually where I got my PN level 1 cert. It's run by John Berardi, or it was run by John Berardi. Now he handed it off. But anyway, one of the, if not the biggest, most well-known nutrition coaching company out there. Tons of different sports teams, professional organizations, all use it. Incredible service, very, very reliable. So if you want really good nutrition advice, precisionnutrition.com. And actually, I'm going to put that in the notes so I don't forget to tell you guys. So we'll do Precision Nutrition. All right. Anyway, the average weight after 30 weeks on the Biggest Loser was 199 pounds. Average weight 6 years after final on-camera weigh-in, 290 pounds. This means that on average, participants regained 70% of the weight they'd lost, although they did keep off about 30% of it, which by all means, great for them. But if they went at it with a slower approach, a more sustainable approach, instead of Jillian Michaels ripping them a new asshole and telling them to starve themselves, I would make a bet that they'd probably be able to flip that and only gain maybe 30% of the weight back and keep 70% off. Because that's what happens when you do these poverty diets, the egg diet, the celery juice diet, the wine diet, the beer diet. All of these operate on the basic principle of a calorie deficit. You can't get away from the fact that a calorie deficit works. And there are a lot of companies that want to bastardize this concept and really just play mental gymnastics with you. Or, my personal favorite lately is the fasting mimicking bars. It's a load of shit. It's a way, like, fasting mimicking bars are not mimicking anything. They load you with healthy fats, in some cases fiber, and then that reduces hunger and actually it results in you eating less throughout the day. Now, they need to package and sell something, but they're selling bullshit. They're selling you on fiber and healthy fats, which you can do that without paying triple for this expensive bar. You could just get a 100-calorie pack of nuts and call it a day. So it really comes down to educating yourself as best you can, because, I mean, let's be real. All of us have our interests and our jobs that we need to devote our full attention to. And that's what these companies prey on. These weight loss clinics prey on people that are so busy that they just don't have the time to look into this stuff. It's really sickening, and it pisses me off to no end. And these weight loss clinics should be illegal. They straight up should, because they're reducing quality of life. I would say they're taking years off of people's lives because they're literally starving them and then making them feel like shit about the fact that they can't stick to it and hoping that they come back in expecting the same result. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. They are putting people's health at risk because they want to make $1. So if there's anything to say here, don't go to a weight loss clinic ever. But there is a silver lining here. You can go to doctors that specialize in this stuff, because at the end of the day, when it comes to your health, weight loss, treatments, medications, anything should be run by your doctor. Your primary physician should be the person that you see about this. Okay, so there are physicians that specialize in this stuff, and one of them who puts out a ton of really, really good information, and it's on Instagram, so it's easily digestible. It's pretty funny sometimes. Calls himself a memeologist. One of the best people in this space is Dr. Spencer Nadolsky, and he is considered a obesity/lipid specialist physician. So he literally specializes in obesity, and for anybody who doesn't know what lipid is, that's fat. So like the scientific term for fat. That's what fat is made up of lipids. So he puts out a ton of great information. Are there medications that make weight loss easier for some people? Absolutely. Because when you are in this space, like when you hit that point where you're very overweight, obese, and stuff like that, it messes your body up. It really messes your hunger signals up, and it messes up how you handle carbohydrates and how you store them. And if you're diabetic, this throws a gigantic wrench into things. And that's where you need a doctor. That's where you need to get all this stuff taken care of. And then when you get it all figured out, this happens a lot with the hormone thing too, because, for example, like I said before, I work with a lot of women who are kind of close, if not in menopause. I am hands off. I am not a doctor. And any coach that tries to sell you on hormonal balance and all that crap, run the other way. But the optimal situation here is, when it comes to your health plan, get your physician to get you in a really good place where you're healthy. You could do exercise. You could take control of your nutrition. And then when you have a really good fitness coach, we're there for application. So your doctor cannot spend, it just is impossible for your doctor to spend an hour a day with you, or like with how personal trainers do. They're spending an hour together 3, 4, 5 times a week. That's not going to happen. Your doctor is going to get annoyed with you. Your insurance company is going to say you pay for it, and it doesn't work that way. So what happens in the ideal situation is that, one, your doctor informs your personal trainer, but that's asking a lot. That usually doesn't happen. But if it does, great. Or you ask your doctor, okay, I'm working with a personal trainer. What should I tell him? So this happens a lot when I'm working with a nutritionist or a dietitian. Actually, dietitian, not nutritionist. Technically, I'm a nutritionist because of PN level 1, but nutritionists, don't bother with them. If you go to a registered dietitian, which is the number one resource when it comes to really getting your nutrition on track, ask them, what you should be working on, what their plan is, and then relay that to your trainer, to your coach, your online coach, whatever. And that is the best case scenario, because what coaches are there for is application and follow through and making sure you stick to the plan. That's really what the coach's value is here. We're not scientists. We're not doctors. We're not we are coaches. We get you to build habits. We get you to stick to the plan. And we can be your doctor, your registered dietitian's best friend. And I hope that it's that case, because you don't want your wellness team, your support system, all bickering and trying to outdo each other. So in an ideal scenario, everybody's on the same page and you are the key to the communication. You're the one that relays everything honestly and openly to every single person so they can give you the best service possible. So that being said, get in touch with your general physician, seek out a registered dietitian if possible, and then relay all that info to your personal trainer. And I know that sounds like a lot, like a doctor, a nutrition, or a dietitian, a trainer, but at the end of the day, this is your health. If it's not a priority, don't expect it to serve you in the future. If you're not going to take care of your body, then don't expect it to take care of you. Sorry, I didn't mean to end that on a negative kind of note, but take care of yourself. Treat yourself. And last but not least is net carbs are bullshit. Yeah, this still sounds negative. This one has a silver lining though, I swear to God. Net carbs being bullshit. When I say net carbs, I'm talking about when you see packaging on a label and they say, oh, it's very low carb. It's only got 4 grams of net carbs. What net carbs means is there's carbohydrates in whatever you're eating, if it's promoting net carbs. And what they do is they take the carbohydrates that are not fiber and then the carbohydrates that are fiber, and they subtract the fiber from the total of the carbohydrates. So let's say you're eating a Quest bar and there's 20 grams of carbs and there's 10 grams of fiber. They take that 10 grams of fiber out from the 20 of the total bar, and now it is 10 net carbs. Problem with this is people go and enter that into their MyFitnessPal or whatever tracker they use, and they say, oh, I only had 10 grams of carbs. Pause. This is not the case. Just because something is fiber and it's a lot harder for your body to break down doesn't mean that it doesn't take energy from the fiber. What happens is when you ingest fiber, yes, it sits in your gut longer and it is harder to digest, harder to break down, and harder to pull energy from. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. It sits there and it ferments. And as it's fermenting in your gut, your body is pulling energy from that now fermented fiber. So you thought you were only getting 10 grams of carbs, but you're still getting over that 10 grams of carbs because your body is still pulling from that fiber. Slower, yes, but it's still pulling. So at the end of the day, you could think that, oh, I only ate 100 grams of carbs, but keeping that same ratio, let's say it was you had nothing but Quest bars that day for a hypothetical example. You think you only had 100 grams of carbs, but in reality, you had 200-ish grams of carbs, give or take. It definitely wasn't 100, and it was definitely more than you marked down because of that fermentation process and your body doing its thing. It's still pulling from there. Now, it's not an exact science. None of this is. Calorie counting is not an exact science because, for one, the nutrition labels all round to the nearest 5. Have you ever noticed, at least in the States, if you get stuff from the UK or Australia, sometimes they literally go down to the decimal of how many calories there are. But in the States, it's always rounded to the nearest 5. So with that is accumulated error. So some days you're going to be over, some days you're going to be under, and you'll have no idea. But the key here is to build up consistency and see when you eat similar foods, how it goes. But back to the net carbs. you really got to realize that it is a marketing tool. It's one of those things that makes you feel good about yourself. And anytime you're in that situation where your mind is telling you, well, it's good for me, so we know the stuff that's good for you. Fruits, vegetables, protein, exercising, walking, getting outside, that stuff is good for you. If you're thinking that same line of thought around a product that's in a package, pause right there, really think about it. If they have you in that mindset, they've got you. Marketing is it's 99% bullshit. It is. I'm sorry. And the level of integrity, especially in the supplement industry or the food industry for that matter, is very, very low. They just want to sell you their product, make their money, and be out. That's it. They want your money. So they're going to sell you and make it sound better than it is. So if you catch yourself in that line of thinking, just take a deep breath. Think, is this bullshit? Because it feels like bullshit. The one thing I will say about all this, though, is fiber is really good for you. Fiber is one of the most underrated things out there when it comes to your overall health, because for some reason it just keeps getting put on the back burner, because when things get processed and you get these frankenfoods and stuff, let's say it has fruit in it, or it has nuts in it, or anything like that, but it's really broken down, sometimes fiber gets lost. And now when you would have had a healthy amount of fiber, if you just ate fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, all that other stuff that has fiber in it, you'd probably be in a good place. You wouldn't be as hungry. You would have sustained energy throughout the day, because fiber really slows down digestion and feeds your body as you go, instead of being so easy to digest that it's in and out of you and you're hungry in an hour. So that fiber is very, very helpful. And on top of that, when it comes to health, especially cholesterol, when you eat more fiber, it really helps put that cholesterol to work. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, because straight up, I don't have that deep of an understanding of it. For a better understanding, I could bring Dr. Chakowski, my girlfriend, on, and she can talk your ear off about metabolism and how it affects cholesterol and all that stuff. But plain and simple, when you increase your fiber intake, cholesterol numbers usually improve. That's why when people go to the doctor and their blood pressure is their cholesterol is in a bad place, a lot of doctors will say, okay, we're going to start you're going to start having oatmeal in the morning, or Cheerios. It's weird, but Cheerios do have a good amount of fiber if you get the OG kind, not the added honey, added sugar, and all that. So not ideal sources. Oatmeal, yes, especially if you get the steel cut, that's a good source. But when it comes to fiber, you want fruits, you want vegetables, nuts, beans. Those are the go-tos. And if you're going to have bread, making sure that it's sprouted or whole grain or something in that realm of real bread, not Wonder Bread. That's the way that you go about it, because that fiber, super duper helpful. It can, like I said, reduces hunger, improves your health. More people than not need more in their diet. And for anybody wanting the specific number, the ballpark that is the recommendation is 10 to 12 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories that you're consuming. So me, for example, I'm taking in about 2,000 calories. That would be about 20 to 24 grams of fiber. And to put that in perspective, the Mighty Muffins that I have over there, they've got about 5 grams per. And for the stuff that I mentioned, like an apple, an apple is 4.5 grams of fiber. So you figure 4 apples a day, you're probably good. But it adds up. When you make sure that there is some form of fiber in your diet when it comes to breakfast, lunch, dinner, it will add up. And the best part about this is, on top of that, when you do it from whole foods, one of the best things about whole foods is the fact that they all have trace amounts of protein if they're not a protein source. So those protein, vegetables, beans, I messed that up. Vegetables, fruit, beans, legumes, nuts, they all have a little bit of protein in them. So if you struggle getting enough protein throughout the day, which also helps a lot with staying full, that can help. And that adds up a lot. I've had days where I'm trying to really focus on getting nutrient-dense stuff, and I don't have to stress the protein as much because I look at it and I'm like, damn, the count from the non-protein sources got up there, like 10, 20 grams of protein, which if for me, I need 170 grams of protein a day. That's a big chunk for 20 grams. I'm all about it. So it makes life a lot easier if you're in that mindset of trying to get more protein in throughout the day. So many, many good things to come from fiber, even though the marketing tool of net carbs is complete bullshit. So we'll leave it on that note. Now, I'm going to go because I have been doing these. I'm trying to get this one back to back. Last week was an utter disaster, but this one's happening this week. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to go do a review for this new protein powder I got, this bone broth protein powder, and I want to see if it's any good. And I'll let you in on that on the next podcast, which will be released Wednesday. So hopefully I'll catch you then. Until then, have an amazing week. Go kick some ass, and I'll see you next time.